Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to tonight's Planning and Development Control Committee meeting. My name is Nikos Souslous. I am the chair of the committee. I'd like to remind all participants of a few quick housekeeping points. The meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel, and by participating, you are consenting to being recorded. If the fire alarm sounds, we will leave quietly and calmly by the exit, which is through the doors to the right, and we'll be gathering on Blacks Road. Please can officers introduce themselves before speaking for the first time, and everyone please make sure you use your microphones. Before we begin, I'd like to start by paying tribute to my predecessor, Councillor Omid Miri. Over the last, I think, 3 years, he was a very good chair, very attentive, and a very good friend to all of us, always making sure, listening to residents' concerns, but also bearing in mind the key issues that we have in the borough, especially around the housing crisis and housing needs. I'll miss him, we'll miss him, and yeah, we wish him all the best in the future. I'd also like to thank Councillor Chevaux-Verde and especially Councillor Carmel, who served on this committee for probably about 2 decades, if not more. Yeah, they will be very much missing. We thank them for the service. And we welcome on the committee Councillor Painter, Councillor Nemo, and Councillor Borland, who are not here with us, she's not here with us today. So thank you all for joining us and looking forward to another year on the committee. Right, item number 1, apologies for absence. Councillor Jackie Borland and Councillor Adrian Pascal-Tulborough have sent in their apologies. Item number 2, declaration of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest?
Yes, I declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 2. I'm a trustee of the Hammersmith Lyric Theatre, and so are my colleagues, our councillor trustees. It's a non-pecuniary interest. We believe we can keep an open mind on this item and will not be biased either for or against.
Just to confirm, this is item 4, that's the Kingsmore Shopping Centre item. Yeah.
Item 4, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. And the same for Councillor Nemo and Councillor Painter. Okay, thank you very much. Item number 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of April 2025. Are the minutes of the previous meeting agreed? Thank you very much. So we move on to item number 4, the Kingsmore Shopping Centre. Can the presenting officer, Anissa Aboud, please introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Anissa Aboud. I'm the Principal Planning Officer in the North team. The next item on the agenda is Kingsmore Shopping Centre, King Street, London. Your attention is drawn to the addendum, which contains a number of corrections. More specifically, a new condition relating to wastewater heat recovery system is added, and an additional clause to the heads of terms for the submission of an operational management plan. The proposal seeks permission for the change of use of Unit 18 within Kingsmore Shopping Centre from Class E to hotel use. The development proposals consist of an 89-room pod hotel within the former W.H. Smith unit and basement. In terms of the site location, the application site relates to Unit 18, again within the shopping centre at Kingsmore in Hammersmith Town Centre. That's outlined in red. The shopping centre itself occupies basement, ground and first floors with 5 stories of residential development above, known as Ashcroft Square. That's arranged around a large public square at podium level. The site itself is not within a conservation area, however, it is adjacent to 2 conservation areas, namely Hammersmith Town Centre to the east and Hammersmith Broadway Conservation Area to the west. The images on screen shows the aerial views of the site. Again, the images on screen show the existing site photographs with the entrances to the shopping centre, as well as the inside of the retail unit. The image on screen shows the existing basement floor plan, which effectively is ancillary to the use of IKEA, the warehouse. The image on screen is the existing ground floor plan. Again, you can see that it is the retail unit, and there is a temporary pop-up retail unit highlighted in blue. This is the proposed basement floor plan, which again will contain the communal shower facilities. This is the proposed ground floor plan, which will contain the hotel rooms or pods. And again, this is the perimeter plan, which shows more clearly the uses on site. And this is for the basement. So you can see the salmon color is the communal shower facilities, and the light yellow is the sort of plant room and storeroom. And similarly for the ground floor plan, this is the perimeter plan with the lilac colors where the hotel pod rooms would go, and the darker purple, the accessible hotel rooms. And this sort of lime green, light green color is the communal hangout space. And just a bit more about the City Hub Hotel pod concept. The concept is unlike a traditional hotel. It caters for self-sufficient travelers who are comfortable in a digital environment. Therefore, rather than individual rooms, there are hubs, which include a king-size bed alongside space for storage and luggage. City Hub has shared facilities and spaces, including communal bathrooms and a shared hangout space comprising of a reception area, lounge, and self-service kitchen area. These communal areas are designed for people to work and relax. The operator of this hotel concept has been successfully rolled out in 2 cities in the Netherlands and 1 in Copenhagen. This would be the UK's first City Hub hotel. The idea is that travelers check in themselves and have access to a self-service counter. A City Hub staff member, known as a city host, will be available 24 hours to assist guests as required. And again, the image on screen shows the concept, the City Hub concept. And you can see in the bottom right corner, these are the L-shaped interlocking pods. So you'd have a bedroom space up here, and you'd also have a bedroom space down here. These are the communal shower facilities. This is the communal hangout space when you first enter the pod hotel. And then these are the self-service check-in counters. In terms of the nighttime access, the Livat is open for shoppers between 6:30 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. Therefore, guests accessing the hotel during opening hours can use any of the shopping centre's entrances, but will most likely enter through the access point on King Street via the access point to the south. Outside of these hours, again, the City Hub Hotel residents will be provided with a wristband with a fob for access to the hotel premises, and the city host will be available to grant them access via the intercom system. So again, the image on screen shows this is where that intercom would be for the fob access. For nighttime purposes, this gate, there'll be a gate here that will be closed, so then the guests can't access the wider Livat Centre, and they should just be able to enter the hotel itself. In terms of the key issues relate to the loss of the part vacant Class C retail unit and the change of use to hotel. Officers consider this to be acceptable in this town centre, highly accessible location. Like I said, the existing retail unit has been predominantly vacant since WH Smith vacated in 2020, and officers consider that the change of use into a hotel would not impact upon the viability of the shopping area, and it would help with the vitality of the town centre by bringing in more visitors, which in turn would increase the footfall and support the nighttime economy in Hammersmith. In terms of design and heritage, officers consider there to be no impact as there are no external alterations involved. In terms of the neighbour consultation exercise, 1 objection was received from Ashcroft Square. This is summarised in paragraph 4 of the report on page 21 of the agenda pack. However, the main concerns relate to the question around the need for another hotel in the area, concerns over construction noise and disturbance, and potentially more crime in the area. In response to that, a hotel needs assessment has been submitted, which shows there is sufficient demand for visitor accommodation in this town centre location. Conditions have been attached to mitigate against any potential construction noise and disturbance. This includes a construction management plan and a construction logistics plan. Moreover, an operational management plan has been secured, which will ensure local residents have the appropriate contact details to report any issues. In addition, the Section 106 contributions have been secured towards public safety, security in the town centre. The Section 106 would also contain a clause to secure the submission of a community safety action plan. In terms of accommodation, the proposal provides an acceptable standard of visitor accommodation, 10% of which would be wheelchair accessible. In terms of highways, the proposal is car-free, coach-free, and there are no objections subject to these conditions. Lastly, the proposed development would ensure a safe and secure environment for all users. Finally, turning to the heads of terms, the proposed development would include a total financial contribution of £200,000. This would be towards public realm improvements and community safety. Moreover, in terms of the 106, there will be clauses in there to ensure that the hotel room is not occupied for more than 30 consecutive days. A travel plan, including monitoring fee, a coach-free clause, on-street car parking permit-free clause. Like I mentioned, the submission of a community safety action plan with a focus on Ashcroft Square and Livat Centre to increase the number and frequency of security patrols and safety of the area. A clause to ensure that the site will not be used as a temporary hostel accommodation or other homeless accommodation by third parties. Economic development obligations, including employment opportunities and potentially pathway bond, to be discussed as part of the Section 106 process. And finally, a commitment to meet the council's costs or associated legal fees. Finally, for these reasons, officers recommend the application for approval subject to conditions listed in the report, including the changes noted in the addendum and successful completion of the legal agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanisa. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members? Questions, comments for clarification? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the comprehensive presentation. In that case, we will move on straight to voting. First, on whether recommendation 1 in the report is agreed. Recommendation 1, to remind you, is that the Director of Planning and Property be authorized to grant planning permission upon the completion of a satisfactory legal agreement and subject to the conditions listed below. Councillor Trehi.
For.
Councillor Painter.
For.
Councillor Nemo.
For.
Councillor Melton.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
For.
Thank you. And I will be voting for. So in that case, recommendation 1 is carried. Moving on to recommendation 2, which is that the Director of Planning and Property, after consultation with the Assistant Director of Legal Services and the Chair of the Planning and Development Control Committee, be authorized to make any minor changes to the proposed head of terms of the legal agreement or proposed conditions, which may include the variation, addition, or deletion of conditions, and any such changes will be within their discretion. Councillor Trey.
For.
Councillor Painter.
For.
Councillor Nemo.
For.
Councillor Melton.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
For.
Thank you. And I will be voting for. That recommendation is also carried. Thank you very much. We move on to item 5 on the Westfield London Shopping Centre. And can I again invite Anissa to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. The next item on the agenda is Westfield London Shopping Centre, Ariel Way. Your attention is drawn to the addendum, which contains a number of corrections. More specifically, the economic development contribution has been better clarified, and the Ask for Angela or equivalent scheme has been added. The proposal seeks permission for the change of use of part of the existing unit at level 20 in the southwest corner of Westfield Shopping Centre to a dual Class E sui generis use to provide a show venue that will accommodate a theatrical performance of Dirty Dancing, The Party. The proposed development will incorporate a multi-level auditorium for approximately 600 guests. The application site sits within the wider Westfield Shopping Centre and comprises part of a former anchor unit to the southwest elevation of Westfield, previously occupied by Debenhams. The site has been vacant since Debenhams shut in 2020. The wider Westfield London site sits east of Wood Lane and north of the residential streets, including Bulwer Street, and Caxton Road to the south. The site has excellent public transport accessibility level of 6A, one of the highest possible levels. The site is in close proximity to the White City bus station to the north, Wood Lane Underground Station, White City Underground Station, and Shepherd's Bush Underground, Overground, and Railway stations. The site is not within any of the conservation areas, but it sits within close proximity to a number of the conservation areas as outlined in green on the screen. The image on screen shows the aerial views of the site. The image on screen shows the existing site photo with the view from Shepherd's Bush Library facing north towards the site. The image on screen shows the existing floor plan of the vacant unit. Again, this is the proposed floor plan of the show venue. And these are some concept drawings looking at taking a closer look at the entrance and the foyer to the show venue, all contained within the existing unit. The image on screen shows the general arrangement of the auditorium plan, including the seating arrangements. And these are some CGIs to help illustrate the proposals. And again, some more CGIs of the foyer and the entrance. The operating schedule for the venue would be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with one show at 7:30 and no shows on Tuesdays. Saturdays would have two shows, a matinee at 2 p.m. and an evening show at 7:30. And on Sundays, there would be only one show at 1 a.m. Doors for the evening performances are expected to open from 6 p.m. with performances beginning at 7:30 p.m. The running time of the performance is approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes, including an interval, and the last exit time from the venue following the evening performance will be 1 a.m. The idea is that following the end of the performance, guests have the option to remain and enjoy the music and dance, or can choose to leave the venue. The application is also supported by a dispersal policy detailing how visitors to the show venue will be managed and dispersed through Westfield in the most efficient way possible, with minimum disruption to nearby residents. In addition, a final operation management plan will be secured by condition, which will include a commitment to conduct regular community liaison meetings and provide on-site numbers and contact details in the event of any noise disturbance issues that may arise. Bearing this in mind, the image on screen shows the anticipated dispersal routes of the guests. Guests will be guided and encouraged to leave via various exits away from the more sensitive residential streets, such as Bulwer Street to the south. The operator has also confirmed that the doors to the southwest corner closest to the Bulwer Street and Wood Lane exit would be locked shut after 10 p.m. And again, this would be conditioned or secured via the Section 106 agreement. In terms of the key issues, these relate to the loss of the vacant Class E retail unit and the change of use to a show venue sui generis use class. This is considered to be acceptable. The existing retail unit has been vacant since Debenhams left in 2020. The proposed show venue use would add to the existing range of facilities on offer in White City and Shepherd's Bush Town Centre in terms of both employment, social and cultural space, and will complement the existing and proposed uses within Westfield Shopping Centre. In terms of design and heritage, officers consider there to be no impact as the change of use is internal only. In terms of the neighbour consultation exercise, 4 objections were received. These are summarised in paragraph 4 of the report on page 46 of the agenda pack. The main concerns relate to the late closing time of 1 a.m. and the noise implications of this and the potential for antisocial behaviour. As mentioned, a final operational management plan will be secured by condition, which will ensure local residents have the appropriate contact details in case of any noise disturbances. Moreover, given the excellent PTAL of the site, officers are satisfied that subject to conditions, the site can be managed to ensure residents' amenity is protected. Finally, turning to the heads of terms, the proposed development would include a total financial contribution of £275,000. This includes £120,000 towards the law enforcement team towards community safety, £20,000 again towards CCTV, £5,000 towards an Ask for Angela or equivalent campaign, £65,000 towards public realm improvements, and £65,000 towards economic development to support the delivery of Upstream London, and finally a commitment to meet the council's associated legal costs. For these reasons, officers recommend the application up for approval, subject to the conditions listed in the report, including the changes noted in the addendum and the successful completion of the legal agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anita. Questions from the committee? Do we have any questions or comments? Councillor Walsh.
More just an observation. Obviously, given the site location, the concerns raised about transport, I think just given that this is a depot site for TfL and its proximity to a number of bus routes and also tube routes, it does seem, as you mentioned, very well equipped for its PTAL rating. So in terms of the dispersal and being able to get to and from the site, this seems remarkably well equipped in that respect. So I think it's worth noting for the committee just how well served this site is. I say that's purely a comment, not a question.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, just I think, can you talk to what other premises are open until that time? Because it is quite late, and I understand that there would be different dispersal. One of the doors closest to residents would be locked. I mean, is there like the cinema? Could you talk to that?
Absolutely. So Westfield Shopping Centre holds other uses, including the cinema, The View, which operates into the late hours, and Westfield have successfully managed the visitors leaving the site at these hours. Therefore, officers are satisfied that, subject to, again, that final operational management plan, and we have the details around the dispersal policy of where guests will be guided towards, that there would be no demonstrable harm to residents' amenity. And what I would draw members' attention to is, although the maximum capacity of the auditorium is 600, the show will end after the 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours. The idea is that there won't be a massive exodus at one period of time, which would be quite common with cinema showings that already occur at The View. It would be in dribs and drabs, and as people leave, they will be encouraged to go via particular routes, and there will be security officers in place that Westfield will operate, and again will ensure that as part of that final operational management plan.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, in that case, we can move on to voting. Did you put on the, sorry.
Just want to clarify, but
Your microphone, Marion.
just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Is it level 20 or level 40?
40.
Thank you. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for getting the recommendations on the screen, because I don't think anyone wants me to read them out again. Voting on recommendation number 1, Councillor Trey.
4.
Councillor Painter.
4.
Councillor Nemo.
4.
Councillor Melton.
4.
Councillor Walsh.
4.
And I will also be voting 4. And on to recommendation 2, Councillor Trey.
4.
Councillor Painter.
4.
Councillor Nemo.
4.
Councillor Melton.
4.
Councillor Walsh.
4.
And I will also be voting 4. The item is therefore approved. Let's just give a couple of minutes for the change of officers as we move on to item number 6, which is the Holiday Inn Express at 295 Northern Road. Tom Scriven, whenever you're ready, you can introduce the report.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so this application site relates to the existing 150 bedroom Holiday Inn Express hotel. It's located on the east side of North End Road at the junction with Thaxton Road. In terms of the constraints, it falls within the Fulham Town Centre and the Fulham Regeneration Area. It's not within a conservation area, but it is opposite a local listed former Methodist church, which is on the opposite side of North End Road. It's that green building there. This is the existing street view, so you can see the building from the junction of North End Road and Thaxton Road. We've got an aerial image here. So this is from the opposite side from that street view you just saw. So this is the back of the building. We've got the former telephone exchange on the left-hand side and the hotel in here on the right-hand side. In terms of the proposal itself, it's a planning application for various extensions and alterations to the existing hotel consisting of the following. So there's a 6-storey infill extension fronting North End Road, which would provide 20 additional hotel bedrooms. And then there's also the erection of a 1-storey rear extension to extend an existing linen store, 4 air source heat pumps and 2 air conditioning units on the main roof, and a bin store and 2 air source heat pumps in the car park area to the rear of the site. Just in terms of those different elements, so on this site plan here, you can see on the left-hand side, so this is North End Road on the left of the screen here. This is where the 6-storey extension would go, so the primary part of development being proposed. This is the extension to the linen store in here. This is the bin store in here, and these are the 2 air source heat pumps in the car parking area to the rear. I'll go on to the roof plan a bit later. In terms of, this is just to give a good idea of the massing. So the existing building is the dark blue, the proposed extension is in light blue. Obviously it's following the height of the existing building. There is actually a gap between here and the neighbouring building, about 2 metres, which would be retained. Moving on to the front elevations, you can see, as I was just saying, that the proposal would replicate the scale, design and detailing of the existing building. So it's essentially a continuation of the existing hotel, and that the existing access to the rear of the site, which is for the telephone exchange building, would be maintained underneath. This is just a sort of 3D impression. So on the left-hand side at the top, this is obviously what it will look like in theory. And down here, we've got the existing street view. So it's just sort of showing what was on those front elevation plans. These plans, so this is the side and rear. So this is the side. So if you imagine North End Roads on the left-hand side, this is the side facing towards the neighbouring property. And then down here, this is essentially, if you're looking from the rear with North End Road at the front. So this is the 6-storey extension in here with the undercroft underneath. And this is a typical floor plan. So this is the second floor plan. So you can see 4 bedrooms on each floor, and it's connected into the existing hotel corridor, essentially. So that it doesn't have its own independent access. It's very much linked into the existing hotel. And just finally, the roof plan. So the 4 air source heat pumps, they're located here quite centrally within the roof, and that's actually within an existing plant store area. And finally, just in conclusion, principle of extending the hotel within the Fulham Town Centre is considered to be acceptable. As set out in the committee report, design heritage impacts as well as the impact upon neighbouring amenities considered acceptable. The highway impact would be suitably controlled through relevant conditions in the section 106, and the proposal would also make contributions towards environmental and safety improvements in the area, as well as economic development. There's a few updates to the report set out in the addendum. Primary changes are the update to the cycle store condition to require the submission of details so that we can make sure this is secure for future users, and to also add in a condition which would restrict the use of the extension only in association with the existing hotel use. The remaining updates are primarily to clarify some paragraph numbers and that a bus stop suspension is likely to be needed, and that will be discussed within the construction logistics plan, and that the development is exempt from biodiversity net gain. And then just finally to omit reference to a new gate, which isn't part of the proposal. The recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions and the completion of the Section 106 agreement as set out on page 59 of the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tom. Moving on to questions. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Trehi?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I commend particularly the more air source heat pumps. That's very good. Two questions. Can we look at the roof of the new extension and even ask for more climate mitigation in terms of green roof space, firstly? And secondly, I'd like to go back to the slide with the blue outline of the building. What usage has the telephone exchange got now?
BT are still using it, so Openreach is still using it. I'm guessing it's not an exchange, but I don't know for certain. They may be using it for office space.
And the windows that are considered impacted, we don't know, they're not residential,
No,
basically.
so those windows we can see in the telephone exchange, that's a commercial building.
And on that, we haven't had any representations from them, any comments? Or have we?
No, not from them. No.
Yeah, okay.
And the building that's got the numbers on it, on North End Road, that. Obviously, before that infill, there's a little bit of space, and that would be, we've had no complaints of overlooking or overcrowding, sort of.
Yeah, so there were,
for that.
sorry, yeah, there were some objections. So there were 6 objections in total, but they were primarily actually from Lerry Close, which is at the back. So the neighbours that are quite a long way away from the site, that's where most of the objections were coming from. They were raising concerns about daylight, sunlight, privacy, things like that. But obviously they're very separated from where this is going. So there was a daylight and sunlight assessment submitted with the application, and essentially pretty much every single window passed the BRE guidance. I think there was one window which had a very, very marginal breach of the guidance. It wasn't actually the immediate neighbour, it was the one beyond, 299. But it was a small galley kitchen, which we don't consider to be a habitable room. And like I say, the breach was very, very minor. So overall, given the separation distance from the majority of neighbours and actually where neighbouring windows are located, it was considered it wouldn't significantly impact on privacy. And just further to that, in terms of privacy, the main windows are in the front and then in the rear. So the ones in the rear, I mean, I guess all you can see is the car parking area and the telephone exchange pretty much. And to the front, you're looking out onto the street and the public domain, and the neighbours opposite, that's a reasonable separation distance as well. And they already face the hotel.
Thank you for that clarification. And going back to the usage of the roof space that is going, because the light blue is the new roof space, we don't have in any of the supplements SPD any sort of encouragement for them to do anything with that new roof space?
So they're actually indicating, sorry, I should have mentioned this before, that they're going to do a blue roof on there to reduce the amount of surface water runoff. So there's actually an improvement compared to the existing situation on site. So it's going to help with things like surface water flooding in the area. So they are, I know they're not doing an air source heat pump, but they are doing something beneficial with that flat roof space.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Just on something you mentioned, Tom, about Larry Close, is the assessment also that there's no impact on them in terms of sunlight, daylight, privacy, and so on? Yeah,
and all their windows passed.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Walsh, you had a question.
Thank you, Chair. It's 2 observations mainly. I mean, firstly, as you outlined, obviously there is some mitigation here in terms of, biodiversity, the blue roof is welcome, of course, but it does seem rather under ambitious in terms of its, looking to make a climate positive impact here. We have spoken about in this committee before that this is a borough where we have declared a climate emergency before. It would be beneficial had this application come forward with a little bit more effort, it would seem, to be tackling of the climate emergency. So it's more echoing the comments of Councillor Trehi, and just to express a bit of a disappointment in the ambition, obviously notwithstanding that, as you've mentioned, it still remains policy compliant in its present form.
I would just say, just briefly on that. So overall, they're providing 6 air source heat pumps. 4 of them are actually for the existing building. So it's an improvement for the existing building as well as providing for the new structure. So overall, they're not just trying to mitigate the impact of the new building, the extension. They're also trying to improve what their current energy use across the site. So yeah, there is an overall improvement for the building as a whole.
But nonetheless, it's still some way off in terms of its carbon emissions. But nonetheless, I welcome your clarification in that regard. The second point is simply a matter, again, of commentary here. I know in previous reports that you've brought forward, we've included the construction logistics plan. As anybody that's tried to drive down North End Road, it is a particularly congested road and prone to traffic jams and such. So it's a pity that it couldn't have been part of this report, given that I would imagine this to be a particularly impactful development, just given the location and that junction of where this construction is going to take place. So again, more just a comment for future, where there is complications like this, it'd be good to have that to scrutinize that a bit more.
I think I do agree with you. I think just sometimes it's a bit difficult with certain schemes because sometimes they don't have a contractor on board, and obviously it's something where they need the input of the contractor, how they're actually going to do the work. So sometimes it's a bit difficult to provide it at the planning stage when you've not necessarily got all those people lined up who are going to do the work. But I do appreciate it could be helpful to have it earlier on to sort of give that reassurance.
Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with questions, comments, or observations, or random facts? No. Okay, very good. In that case, we will move on to voting. And first on weather recommendation 1, which is as in the papers and as previously mentioned, weather recommendation 1 is agreed. Councillor Trehi, are you voting for, against, or not voting?
For.
Councillor Painter?
For.
Councillor Nemo?
For.
Councillor Melton? For. Councillor Walsh?
For.
And I will also be voting for. Therefore, recommendation 1 is approved. Now on to recommendation 2. Councillor Trehi votes for, against, or not voting?
For.
Councillor Painter?
For.
Councillor Nemo?
For.
Councillor Melton?
For.
Councillor Walsh? For. And I'm also voting for. And therefore, this item is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. We therefore move on to item number 7, which is about the land to the north of the A40, also known as the Westway. And John, whenever you're ready, John Sanchez, please introduce the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm going to run through the presentation for this full application, which is for the construction of a new a publicly accessible link, including an underpass for pedestrians and cyclists between the Imperial White City campus and Latimer Road. I'll summarise the proposals and the comments received. Before I start, I'd like to draw members' attention to the addendum. Effectively, the key points is that there's an extra condition included relating to biodiversity net gain, and also some minor changes to the heads of terms and including an additional bullet point, which again also relates to biodiversity net gain. The application is for the construction of this east-west link. It's also referred to as the underpass within the committee report. The Hammersmith and Fulham application includes the western mouth of the underpass. This is the entrance exit to via Imperial Land and the underpass itself. There's a parallel planning application that's been submitted to the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, which have their access and exit from Latimer Road. The proposed link runs under the West London line. This is between Hammersmith and Fulham and the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. And the link would be sited just north of the A40 Westway. The delivery of the underpass is a key aspiration for both boroughs and a long-term commitment of Imperial College. The proposals have been developed by Imperial College as the applicant. The land beneath the railway embankment is, however, owned by Network Rail, and Imperial have sought to secure the relevant rights of access. Imperial would take responsibility for its construction and maintenance. Extensive work has taken place since the previous applications for the underpass were submitted back in 2014, in terms of negotiations between all individual parties involved and updating the design of the underpass. A tripartite agreement, which sets out the construction operational arrangements between Imperial, Network Rail and the council, is now substantially in place and close to being finalised. There'll also be a maintenance agreement between Imperial College and the council. This slide shows the application site and in context with the borough boundary in the Imperial campuses and its surroundings. Delivery of the East-West link was included in the original 2012 legal agreement. This was a hybrid planning permission, which is now known as Imperial North Campus, and has subsequently been amended during the course of the years during the build out of the campus, with the last permission for plots A and G in 2020, where the commitment to deliver the underpass is still secured. The current obligation wording requires the construction of the underpass prior to practical completion of buildings A and G. Building G, for the record, is the School of Public Health, which was completed a couple of years ago, fronting Wood Lane. Plot A is the last remaining plot on the campus, which is it's just out of shot in this image. It's on the corner of Shinfield Street and Wood Lane. There's a resolution to grant planning permission for student accommodation-led scheme. That section 106 is due to be finalised shortly with a stage 2 referral to the mayor. This slide shows the position and proposed route of the underpass in context with the elevated A40. Latimer Road in RBKC is to the left, with existing Imperial buildings to the right. The red line running north to south on the eastern boundary of the embankment is the position of the administrative boundary between the two boroughs. This slide shows the aerial view looking northwards of the existing North Campus and scale space on the South Campus. It reveals the existing barriers that currently exist in the form of the West London line and the Westway. The image on the right shows the consented outline scheme for the proposed South Campus. The site itself is located within the White City Opportunity Area and also within the White City Regeneration Area in the local plan. The site is also a strategic site White City East, which includes both the Imperial North and South campuses. The delivery of the underpass is supported in the local plan, so to enhance connectivity between the developments in White City, the surrounding amenities, and the wider communities on both sides of the West London line. The underpass would overcome the existing barriers that currently exist in terms of impeding both pedestrian and cycle access in the area. We will promote active travel and reduce neighbourhood segregation. This slide shows in sort of a wider context, demonstrates how important the underpass is in terms of fitting with the wider area, in terms of both not only east-west connections, but north-south connections as well. So the provision of this link would create a shared space through the campus and beyond, including connections to cycle route 34 in Hammersmith and Fulham and Latimer Road in RBKC. This image shows the layout of the link and the underpass. So the underpass itself will be constructed perpendicular to the railway line. It would be publicly accessible and remain open and passable, except for when there are requirements of Network Rail, TfL or Imperial to carry out maintenance work to their respective parts. The full length of the link itself is 68 metres. The middle portion, which is where roughly the railway line is, I don't know why the mouse is playing up, is roughly 20 metres in length and 6 metres wide. It comprises a pedestrian walkway, which is 2.25 metres, and a cycle path, which is 3.5 metres. The underpass itself would have a consistent floor-to-ceiling height of 2.85 metres. This will provide both pedestrians and cyclists with a clear, unobstructed view through the underpass from either end. Splayed sight lines at the mouth and tunnel approaches would provide greater visibility. This image shows the current situation. This is sort of south of the North Campus. You've got the iHub building there to the left, and obviously the Westway, elevated Westway to the right. The existing site layout currently has sort of a dead end formed by the railway embankment, the position of the imposing Westway, and the current back-of-house delivery arrangements to the Imperial iHub building. This does create an unfriendly and unwelcoming part to this part of the wider campus. Again, this shows an image. So to the left is the existing situation. These are retractable bollards which are in place for vehicles entering the iHub building for deliveries and servicing. And the image to the right shows a little contextual image of essentially what the view will be once development's completed. This is the view from RBKC Latimer Road. So the existing arrangements, obviously most of the land there is enclosed by this unattractive metal fencing around the perimeter. And the image to the right shows the access from the RBKC side. In terms of the planning application itself, the application was advertised by site and press notice with 360 neighbour letters. In total, 16 representations were received, all in support. They were from Imperial community residents and researchers, residents outside Imperial campus, together with reps from Queen Park Rangers Football Club, the Hub and Ed City. TfL have commented on the application as the Strategic Transport Authority and landowners. As a result of this, we've agreed to an asset protection agreement, which is captured by condition. In terms of the planning application submitted to RBKC, that's actually going to their committee this evening. That application has received 30 representations, including 27 in support. including representation from the St Quintin and Woodlands Neighbourhood Forum, who are supportive of the proposals. This image here shows a cross-section. So one of the key issues here is obviously about accessibility, and effectively what you're dealing with is almost a 2 meter drop between the RBKC side and Hammersmith and Fulham. So obviously to ensure that this is obviously DDA compliant, key emphasis has been concentrated on levelling out the underpass section. So that's at a level 1 to 57. The section on our side is at 1 to 28, and the side on RBKC is at 1 to 21. The proposals are fully inclusive and a step 3. So in conclusion, the scheme complies with the development plan. It delivers a more direct, safe and attractive pedestrian cycle link through the campus and enables improvements in terms of connectivity, accessibility. The underpass and the associated routes through the campuses would provide a safe and welcoming environment. Officers consider the proposals to be acceptable, subject to appropriate conditions and heads of terms included in the report and the addendum. Accordingly, it's recommended that planning permission be granted as set out in the report and the addendum. Thank you.
John, thank you very much. That is very helpful. We also have a speaker representing the applicant in support. Sarah Carey, if you'd like to come to the table, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, just, no, sit down, make sure you turn the microphone on.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's important. Good evening. I'm Sarah Carey. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Imperial. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I think it's important to say that the proposal addresses a long-standing obligation that actually you, the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, agreed with Imperial was an important piece of public infrastructure. So this is something we've been talking about for a very long time, and we both agree it's really important to do and to build, but we do need to do it right and to the right level of design. And we both, I think, all parties understand that it's not just a benefit to Imperial and our students and our campus, but it is a legacy project for the wider area, and it forms a real important part of our long-term commitment to the White City Innovation District. John's been talking about how it's a fully accessible pedestrian and cycle connection beneath the West London line, that's the Malmö line. And today that journey takes, between North Kensington and White City, takes 15 to 30 minutes by indirect routes. And this link will reduce that to just a few minutes, creating a really safe, inclusive connection for residents to schools, to health, to community facilities. Both sides have got nice schools, nice leisure centres. It'd be good to be able to get to them more. And helping to knit together two vibrant but very currently disconnected neighbourhoods. So we've involved renowned landscape architects, West 8, in shaping the design of the link. It's wide enough, we've talked about, for both pedestrians and cyclists to use simultaneously, and it's only about 20 metres of it are covered. We've worked hard to keep the minimum length covered under the railway line. That's a little bit less than a tennis court if you've been watching the recent French Open. Security is a key consideration. The route will be really well lit. We've got CCTV connected both to Imperial and to the council's control centres. You can directly see through the link at the 2 metre distance. It doesn't feel like you're going underground. You feel like you're going through a link rather than a deep tunnel. And the height is about 2.8 metres, which is about the entrance to White City Tube Station. So it's a really good height as well. And the open curb forms on the outside are designed to kind of encourage people in and to maximize a kind of sense of openness across the whole link. So we worked hard to make it feel like something people will enjoy over time. We also have committed to public art for the link, and we are already exploring opportunities for local involvement in shaping that artwork, and both the process of the design, but also the final selection of what goes into the link. And we want to ensure that reflects the diverse voices of both White City and North Kensington. John talked about the fact that we've engaged extensively with residents and local stakeholders. We've really enjoyed that feedback and grateful that most people have come and said, can you please just get on and build this? It's going to make my life better in some way. They're very keen to see the long-standing commitment that we've had to bring this forward. And just finally, we do need to bring this forward in coordination with Network Rail and with London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham transport officers, as well as the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea and TfL, who own land on the other side. So this is really a joint project for public benefit and a legacy for future generations to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind turning the microphone off and taking the seat again. Thank you so much. We now move on to questions to officers from committee members. Are there any questions? Councillor Trey.
Not really, more a point, but I think you've largely spoken to it. Historically, underpasses under the Westway have been fairly uninviting places, particularly safety-wise. I think you've really spoken to it, but again, just can we speak to how monitored the upkeep and the monitoring and the safety of this underpass will be? Thank you.
Yeah, obviously there's a couple of factors here. First of all, obviously the existing conditions on the site. Effectively, what you have, you've got a North Campus which is now substantially completed, and Imperial now moving on to starting to develop out the South Campus. So a couple of things. First of all, the design of the underpass itself. One of the key changes between this design and the 214 design has been to sort of open up the underpass as much as possible, so there's clear visibility through it at either end. There's obviously the lighting, there's CCTV in terms of security cameras within the underpass itself and the wider campus. The other thing is also in terms of the general security, which is obviously maintained and managed by Imperial across their whole estate. The CCTV itself is linked to their control room and also back to our system as well. In terms of obviously opening this up and making it more active, at the moment, as you can see from the images, it's primarily, particularly the eastern end of the axis, is a delivery servicing entrance. What will be happening in the very short term is the delivery of the first two buildings of part of the South Campus, which are going to be underneath the Westway. And I've got an image of what that looks like. So, so you can see that. So the yellow image, if you look to the northern end, that is along the access route. The southern end is towards the South Campus. So there's going to be a lot more activation along there. So this is not only about creating the east-west links, but it's also opening up those north-south links as well.
Thank you, John. Any further questions or comments? Thank you. Just to say, for my part, I think this is a great scheme, and you know, as the applicant said, overdue and much needed, and it's good to hear your clarification, John, that this is, as Councillor Trey said, as opposed to underpasses, not just in that area, but usually, as you would see anywhere else, this will be in addition to the public realm, and it will be a way that will beautify the area. So I think, yeah, everything sounds really positive to me, and it's good to have the committee that will be maintained as we move forward. And you know, there's a good relation between Imperial and the council and all the partners, so that is good to know. Okay, we move on to voting. Firstly, on whether recommendation 1 in the report is agreed. Councillor Trey, will you be voting for, against, or not voting?
For.
Councillor Painter?
For.
Councillor Nemo?
For.
Councillor Melton?
For.
Councillor Walsh?
For.
And I'll also be voting for. Recommendation 1 is therefore approved. And we move on to recommendation 2. Councillor Trehi?
For.
Councillor Painter?
For.
Councillor Nemo?
For.
Councillor Melton?
For.
Councillor Walsh?
For.
Thank you very much. And I will also be voting for, which means that recommendation 2 is approved and therefore the item is approved. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for coming, for contributing and for watching. The draft minutes of the meeting will be published on the website shortly and they will be formally discussed at the next meeting on the 8th of July. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.